Inshallah, those of you that are joining via Zoom, you can also watch this on the IABA YouTube channel. So that is preferred. But if you are joining via Zoom, please make sure that your video is off and you are also muted. Uh, Brother Assam, we are live. So inshallah, whenever you are ready.
Inshallah. Inshallah, we recite Surah Yasin for Marhum Osama Sharafuddin, and we'll do the niyyah of hadiyah for him in his grave. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فهم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم إنا نسألك بحق هذه التلاوة ونهدي ثوابها إلى المرحوم أسامة شرف الدين اللهم آمن وحشته وصل وحدته اللهم واجعل قبره روضة من رياض الجنة لا حفرة من حفر النار يا أرحم الراحمين بحرمة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم صدق الله العلي العظيم. First and foremost, I give my condolences to all of the mu'mineen and mu'minat on the occasion which we have come to commemorate, and that is the shahadat of Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. The shahada which actually took place yesterday, but nonetheless, this is still a period of mourning that usually after one buries his or her loved one, you still continue to mourn for them. As I begin to reflect upon the life of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, as we should always do, and particularly when it comes to an event that is surrounding their life or the shahadat of the ma'soom, it is a moment to reflect upon their life and to gain something to benefit us in our own lives. And I thought that since we are faced with a particular issue, and many people know of that issue, which has arisen several weeks ago, and people are still in the mode of reflecting upon the idea and the concept of social justice and also racial justice. So I was curious that does Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, does he give us something in order to navigate this challenging time? And of course, as the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated, he's given us two weighty things: Kitab Allah wa itrati Ahlul Bayt, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran, the final revelation and message to humanity, and his Ahlul Bayt, which will embody that Quran and the teachings of the Quran. So we have to rely on both. And while I don't want to make this, and intentionally I was not planning to make this a kind of a traditional or normal majlis, but a moment of education. And this is because Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he was someone who taught the ummah that without Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, you would have no school of thoughts. Again, he was the foundation of Islamic education. And he is someone who has said repeatedly and emphasized repeatedly that the believer, the mu'min, should learn his deen and understand his faith, understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the Quran, understand that treasure of knowledge that has been given to us by the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Ahlul Bayt. So with that said, I want everyone to pay attention and focus on 3 verses. And if you have not memorized these verses, I encourage everyone to memorize these verses, because it will help us to navigate this time and put some sort of understanding from an Islamic perspective or a God-centered perspective, as we had last week, the focus on that, of a God-centered understanding of race or social justice. These 3 verses are verse 4 of Surah At-Teen, so chapter 95 of the Quran, verse number 4. And I'll recite that in a few minutes. I recited it at the beginning. The second verse is verse 22 of Surah Rum, so chapter 30 of the Quran, verse 22. The third verse is verse 13 of Surah Al-Hujurat, that is chapter 49 of the Quran, verse 13. And you'll see, and I've mentioned these 3 verses, actually, or the 2 verses, 2 latter verses that I've given. I've mentioned them over the discourse that we've been having concerning race and social justice. But I want to mention it here so that we may understand, as Imam Sadiq alayhi has stated, and also many of the Imams, so they say that the Quran, it gives commentary of itself. Not only does it give commentary of itself, but again, it guides us in the most difficult of moments. And by understanding these 3 verses, by reflecting upon these 3 verses, it will give us a God-centered perspective on how to develop our relationship with one another as human beings. Because I know that some Islamic centers, they have been looking inward to see whether they have caused some sort of division among themselves, or maybe passively been involved in some sort of separation or racism, or whatever you want to call it, tribalism, or any of those negative isms, as we said, that creates division among people that is not healthy, and nor is it God-centered. In verse 4 of Surah At-Teen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ التَّقْوِيمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states he creates mankind in the best of states, in the finest of fashions. And this fine fashion or composition in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he creates mankind in, he also explains in the Quran. And as many of the Mufassirin, they state that this khalq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this particular verse, when he says he created and he fashioned mankind in the best of manner, they point to 2 aspects of mankind. One aspect is the zahir, the physical physique of mankind, the whatever is the physical aspect of man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created him in the best of fashion. The other aspect, which many Mufassirin, they also commentators of the Quran, they also allude to and point to, they said with the internal, or the batin, the intellect, the soul, the spirit of mankind has been created in the best of fashions. Now, of course, with these 2 things, that by man having choice, well, of course, we can distort these things. We can distort our physical look. We can distort our spiritual and our intellectual aptitude as well, to take it out of those parameters of the best of fashions, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind in. So how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also speak about this fashion or this composition that he has created mankind in Surah Al-Hujurat? Just go to the first part of that. So chapter 49, verse 13, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. That we have created you from a male and female. So that best of fashion, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind in, it is the fashion of a male and of female. And if we are individuals who call ourselves religious, that we follow the Quran, we follow the Ahlul Bayt, and this is something the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim afsalatu wasalam, and particularly Imam Sadiq, which I will get to in a moment, where he states, and he is quoting Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that individual, la dina liman la maru'ata lahu, that individual who does not have the quality of humanity in him or her has not followed the faith, has no religion, has no faith. In other words, they have missed the direction and the education that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put forth for mankind to follow in the Quran, and in the example of Rasulullah, and in the example of the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by following that example and understanding that Allah has created mankind in the best of fashions, and that best of fashion will be male and female, that means that one cannot have any hatred towards male or female. In other words, there should be no misogyny in one's perspective and outlook in this world and with everyone. No misogyny, one should not hate women. There should be not any misandry, meaning one should not hate males or hate men. Why? Because this is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us and has fashioned us, has fashioned mankind, if we hold fast to the teachings of the Quran. Likewise, in Surah Rum, chapter 30 of the Quran, verse 22, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. From the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has created the heavens and the earth, وَاخْتِلَافِ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. That he has created the differences in your language and the differences in your color. So these are the best of fashions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind in. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. The أحسن تقويم in gender, male and female, أحسن تقويم in language and in color and in whatever unique features Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind in. So we have to keep this in mind, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has created and he has fashioned mankind, because this is the standard. And this is the same standard which the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam in their life and in their teachings that they lived by. And so if that is the standard, then we must understand, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he stated to one of his companions, and he was educating this companion about one of the statements that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had stated. He said, "Hasabul mar'i dinuhu wa maru'atuhu wa aqluhu wa sharafuhu wa jamaluhu wa karamuhu wa taqwa." He says the hasab, the measure of an individual. When we look at any individual, whether they're male or they're female, whether that individual has a different language than we have, whether that individual has a different color than we have. This is, what is the measure of that person? Not based on their gender, it's not based on their color, which unfortunately, when we look at society today, that this has become the standard. And in fact, a deep research, when we look at why has this become the standard, at least with regards to race, and I'll point this out because I gave the reference in one of our last discussions on this topic, book by the name of We Are All Moors by Anwar Majid, that he notes, again, through research, that race had become a dividing factor within societies after the Spanish Inquisition. That it was the Spains who began to divide because they wanted to remove the Moors, they wanted to remove the Muslims, they wanted to remove anyone who, again, initially didn't have the same religion that they did, but then they had to refer to another criterion because they could not determine simply by looking at that individual that whether they had the same religion as they are, whether they were Catholic, whether they were Christian or not. So then they categorize, oh, well, the Moors, those individuals who appear in this fashion, that their skin is darker, they have a darker skin tone. Then they begin to separate them and they begin to again, come after them, eventually expelling them from Spain, from Andalus. So race in this book is a Spanish word, is a word that was coined by the Spanish in order to, again, make this division. But then, unfortunately, society began to divide, again, upon male and female, to have misogyny and misandry. So these are the unfortunate categories that many people have bought into. But according to the Quran and according to what Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he says, Hasabul mar, the measure of a person, of an individual, is his faith. Wa muru'atuhu, and again, his humanity. It's very interesting, we'll speak about this a little bit more detail, that the word for humanity is muru'ah, which comes from the same word as mara, which means man, humanity. So muru'ah, and we'll explain what is muru'ah. So the measure of a person is based on his humanity, it's based upon his intellect, it's based upon, again, his dignity, it's based upon his jamal, and this jamal here is not physical beauty, but the beauty of the heart. And we understand this as the Ahlul Bayt alayhim, as they explain the concept and the idea of muru'ah, because all of these are part of that muru'ah. And the person's karam, his nobility, his generosity, and that person's taqwa, his consciousness. And part of that taqwa, as we said before, and as it shows in Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that no person is greater than the other, that inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, except for by taqwa. And as some of the ulama, they have also stated that the meaning of muru'ah, of humanity, to have that quality of being human, is taqwa, to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be conscious of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this consciousness, it manifests in how we interact with one another, how we look upon one another. In one case, Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he was passing by some of the people of Medina, and he heard one man raising his voice and yelling at another person, demanding something from him. They were in a business transaction. And when Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he looked at this scenario to see that, well, what is actually going on here? And the amount that this person is arguing and haggling for is something simple. So Imam Sadiq actually says, how much are you trying to bargain, or you're trying to get from this individual for this commodity? And so Imam Sadiq got him to state, oh, well, it's this amount, something that is very minimal, wasn't worth arguing over. So then Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he says, have you not heard this statement? La deena liman la muru'ata lahu. That person who does not have muru'ah, who does not, again, look upon other individual with muru'ah, as if they're a human being. Or as if, and muru'ah also comes in the meaning of kindness, because that's part of what it means to be human. Human, to show kindness towards another human being. Have you not heard this? So this is what it means to be a human being, to have that kindness, to look upon everyone as that creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter their color, no matter their race, or we forget, no matter their color, no matter their different language, no matter their tribe, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said that he has created you with these differences. He has placed you and placed humanity within tribes, shu'ub, or nations, shu'ub, and tribes, qaba'il. And those nations and tribes, there will be various colors, there will be various language within one single nation of people. So with this, I want to address this idea or this concept that has been discussed and has been talked about. Some also statements have been made. Some individuals have also been made to feel uncomfortable with some of the statements that have been made, or even with regards to some of the hadith that folks, they read. But unfortunately, as I will show today, inshallah, that there has been a great misunderstanding of the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam. And because of that grave misunderstanding, then we get individuals who, and they read, and unfortunately, even some scholars or some people who learn, when they come across this word zinj, or even zanj, because actually can be pronounced both ways. Zinj or zanj. And in fact, according to some research, zinj and zanj are actually two different languages. And it refers to a tribe of folks and individuals. That an individual, he's zanj, he speaks zanji, or he's zinj and speaks zinji. Unfortunately, the way it gets translated, and it has been translated into English as black. But this is a mistake. This is a mistake, and we'll go over why it is a mistake. On the one hand, the context in which those hadith are in, and it does not agree and match with the Quran. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He has created mankind in the best of fashions. And He has created them with different colors and different languages, made them of different tribes and different nations, made them of different genders. And this is ahsan al-taqweem. This is the best of fashion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And so when we read a hadith, and I'll bring this up, and this is from Usul al-Kafi, so that everyone will see, we will read from that one of the hadith, and it becomes an issue with folks, and it has become an issue, especially since the issues that have arisen over the last few weeks, where one of the hadith says, from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi wasallam, ascribed to him the hadith, according to some of the research on the chain of narration, is supposed to be a sound hadith. He says, "Iyakum wa nikah zanj, fa innahu khalqun mushawwah." Says, be careful of marrying the zanj, that they are from, again, not a good natured people. So this has become an issue. And one of the number of individuals have mentioned it. I've participated in a number of panels and groups and watched them. And this seems to always be mentioned, that why is this in the hadith? And it's often translated that, oh, the hadith says don't marry the black. And this is a mistake. Al-khata is a grave mistake. It is not talking about the color of an individual or a people, but rather it is talking about a tribe or a group of people. And it is because of, again, perhaps their practices that this warning is here, right? Because there are many other hadith within this Usul al-Kafi that also points out other individuals. So let me give you one example as well, so that is very clear, crystal clear, that this is not talking about blacks. Because Bilal, he was Habash. He was a Habashi. He was Ethiopian. And Bilal was, again, black in color. But when we refer to Bilal, we refer to him as the Habashi, because that was his tribe, that was his nation. Likewise, when we refer to the wife, one of the wives of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Maria Qibtiyya, when we refer to her, again, her tribe, she was Nuba. Again, and Nubians are black. So she was Nuba, also the wife of Imam Rida alayhi wasallam. She was from Nuba. She was Nubian. Bilal, he is Habashi, and there are a Zinj. So where was the Zinj? The Zinj, when we do a deep research on this, alhamdulillah, we had some time to work on that. They were from, they were perhaps the Bantus, according to some of the research, meaning around Tanzania and this area. And they were individuals who were, during that time, had not come into the folds of Islam. In fact, much of their faith was based on an anthropomorphic understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, God is something that is physical. God is something that can be, again, shaped, pretty much like some of the mushrikeen of Mecca. So when the hadith is in that fashion, it's saying, look, don't marry into those individuals who are of that faith. In fact, within some of the research of scholars as well, it is stated that zinj referred to a religion, the religion of a people. Again, perhaps the language of a people, that, again, language and religion, the culture is kind of pretty much interconnected. So it referred to those individuals. Likewise, in that same group of hadith, we have where hadith related to Imam Sadiq alayhi wasalam. Again, it is mursal, meaning not as strong, where the Imam, he states to one of the individuals, he states that La tashtari. He says, La tashtari min Sudan ahadan. Don't buy anyone from Sudan. Meaning that if there are slaves who are captured, don't buy anyone from among Sudan. And he says, and Sudan is the Sha'ab, the kingdom of Sudan. It was a large area. He says, فَإِنْ كَانَ لَابُدَّ فَمِنَ النُّوبَةِ. He says, then if you do buy anyone from this nation, this Sha'ab of Sudan, he says, then choose the Nuba. Again, Maria Qibtiyya, she was Nubia. And also the wife of Imam Rida alayhi wasalam, she was also Nubiya. So then choose a Nuba. And the Imam, he explains why. He says, فَإِنَّهُمْ مِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. He says, they are from among those individuals who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about them. And what did he say about them? In Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 14, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he states, وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَهُمْ فَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there are individuals who say that they are Nasara. And I'll give you a bit of context here as well, because it's important. Sudan, in some contexts, also encompassed Ethiopia as well. That in some of the very early language used for that area of North Africa. So that was considered Sudan, even into Egypt as well. So Sudan, this is the Sudan. This is the land of the Sudan, or the, unfortunately, some say blacks, but it's the land of Sudan, of the Sha'ab. And that Sha'ab had many different tribes. Among those tribes, if we understand Sudan in that sense, the overarching context, then among those tribes was the Habash and Nuba. So Imam Sadiq alayhi in this hadith, or this hadith is ascribed to Imam Sadiq, he says, then take from the Nuba, because they're among those individuals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them, that these individuals have received and heard the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, granted from the tradition of Christianity. They heard this and they held fast to this tradition. فَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. But they forgot a proportion of that mithaq, of that covenant within this revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They forgot part of it. Then Imam Sadiq, he says, أَمَا إِنَّهُمْ سَيَذْكُرُونَ ذَلِكَ الْحَظِّ. He says, but they will remember at one point, they will be mindful and they will remember that covenant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَسَيَخْرُجُوا مَعَ الْقَائِمِ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ مِنَّا عِسَابًا. He says, and those individuals, they will come up and they will stand. And they will be those individuals who are with Imam Zaman Ajal Farju Sharif, Qa'imina. So this is why Imam Sadiq says that, okay, well, if you marry, then take from the Nuba. And then there's another tribe that is mentioned. It says, Al-Akrad, don't marry from among the Akrad. Again, it is a tribe. And again, it's not speaking about, again, those individuals, the Kurds, which that is the word for the plural of Kurds, but not in their capacity as these individuals are Muslim. but in the capacity of that time and that moment where many of them were Zoroastrians, and perhaps among those individuals of Zoroastrians that were not following the path as they should. And again, if we consider, I'm not going to get into that discussion whether we consider them among Ahlul Kitab or not, but also within the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, there's a word that's called zandaqa. Often gets translated as atheist or zindiq, but zandaqa refers to, again, a particular ideology, and that ideology was prevalent among some of the Zoroastrians, and those individuals were called zandaqa, zindiq. And because of that, again, we find also within the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt warning against marrying such individuals with those ideologies. Another hadith, just to show you that it is a tribe, Zinj is a tribe. Again, we come to another hadith that, again, related to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and he begins to list out a number of people of not to marry. But again, these are tribes. So he says, again, La tunakihu zinj wala khizr. He says, don't marry among the zinj, don't marry among the khizr. Then he continues, it says, wal hind. Again, if we say hind, these folks who are from India. Was Sind, and from Sind, which again is the same area. Wal qind. So again, all of those individuals or those names are not referring to the color of individuals. Zinj is not referring to the color, but to a tribe and to a nation and to those individuals and to those groups that had not embraced Islam, or either they were not practicing a divine religion and divine faith. Another hadith that we find in this group of recommendation, one individual comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, and this is a hadith which is considered to be sahih. One individual comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam from Khurasan. And this Khurasan, as we know, is Iran. It is what is called present-day Mashhad. So this individual, he comes to Imam Sadiq, and Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he says, إنه أتاه قوم من أهل الخراسان من وراء النهر. So he comes to Khurasan, from Khurasan. فقال لهم تسافحون أهل بلادكم وتناكحونهم. He says, you shake hands, in other words, you make deals and make partnership with the people of your land, and you marry into these individuals who are the people of your land. Then Imam Sadiq, he says, أما إنكم إذا صافحتموهم انقطعت عروة من عروة الإسلام. He says that when you have made bargains and you've made deals with them, you have severed one of the ropes and ties towards Islam. In other words, again, these individuals are not those individuals who are among the mu'mineen and mu'minat who will have your back. Imam further, he states, وَإِذَا نَاكَحْتُمُوهُمْ إِن تَحْكَ الْحِجَابِ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. He says, and when you marry among them, then you have severed the hijab, the veil of nur, the veil of light, the veil of protection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gives over the believers. Yadullahi ala jama'ah, that the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the power and the might and the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the believers. He says, but when you marry among them, then you sever this protection. Again, this is something we can see even today, that when sometimes by choice and sometimes by conversion, someone is married to someone who is outside their own faith, then what happens is that there are concessions that have to be made. And when those individuals also have children, they're not always able to raise their children based on again, the values and principles as a believer would want, that, oh, well, my children should be Muslim, they should be raised Muslims, but I have to give some sort of concessions as well to make sure that the children understand both, or that sometimes, they will go in one direction. This is something that we see from experience and something that's happened. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the Imam, he says, when you do this, then you have severed that protection. Another hadith, which is considered to be also correct, Sahih, where the Imam, again, in a similar scenario, when the person comes to him and about marriage and marriage to even someone who says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, but this individual is among the hypocrites, this individual is among those folks who are also considered nasibi. Imam Sadiq, he says, I prefer, rather than you marry this individual who, again, pretends to be Muslim, pretends to embrace faith or embrace Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, I prefer that you marry a Christian or a Jew before you marry that individual. And this is someone who apparently says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So these distinctions that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim are making is not based on color. It's not based on race. When they mention these various tribes, Zanj, wal Khizr, wal Hind, wal Sind, wal Akrad, it's based on their state of belief at that time. It is based upon, again, their mannerisms, their perspective of the world. And we find also in another hadith where, we'll end with this, where one person, he comes to the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he tells the Prophet of Allah, tells him, because he's having trouble to find a wife that is suitable for him, then the Prophet, he says, well, why not, فَأَيْنَ أَنْتَ مِنَ السَّوْدَاءِ الْأَنْطَنْطَ. He says, so why not marry someone who is from Sauda, who is black? He uses the color. but again, Antanta, perhaps referring to a group of individuals, a tribe, and he's describing a tribe. So this is what we need to learn from Ahlul Bayt alayhim. How do we have a God-centered understanding of how we need to interact with one another? That when we look at individuals with different languages, different colors, different ethnicities, they're from different nations, different tribes, understand that inna, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, inna khalaqna al-insana fi ahsani taqweem, that we created them in the best of fashions. Their language, their looks, this is a God-centered aspect. And we've created them in different genders and the best of fashions. This brings me to one also example before we get into, I'll just quickly go over that. How can we cultivate this muru'ah, this humanity within ourselves? Go to this one example because this is also very interesting. When Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he was walking with some individuals, and one individual who would often accompany the Imam when he's walking and he's talking, of course, most likely educating the ummah, those individuals around him. He says, this person, Zawrajulun min Ahlis Sawad. So the man from Ahlis Sawad. So from the black, or actually the black land. This is also considered al-Arud al-Khadra. So Arud al-Sawad, Arud al-Khadra. Means green, and sometimes, according to some research, it says that the land was so green that from a distance it looked like it was black. And this area and this land was, say, between Kufa and Basra. So not necessarily referring to the color of the individual, but referring to that land or that area. But I'll come back to this soon as well. So this individual, one day he was not with the Imam. And so the Imam, he asked about him. And some of the folks around him, they told the Imam, they wanted him, and says, why are you asking about this individual? Innahu nabati. But he's just a villager. Why are you asking about this individual? As if that person, based on some sort of social status, based on some sort of, again, worldly aspect that they're looking at this individual, that they really didn't have that worth for the Imam to ask about. So Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, immediately he says, Aslu rajul aqluhu wa hasabuhu wa dinuhu wa karamuhu wa taqwahu wa nasu fi adama mustawun. He says that the origin of a person is his intellect. And we'll understand that again from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, that part of maru'ah is aql. That the person who has maru'ah, he has to have aql, he has to have intellect. And this is something that Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi told to one of the famous companions of Ahlul Bayt, Hisham ibn Hakam, where the Imam, he says, Ya Hisham, la dina liman la maru'atahu. So that person who does not have the qualities of humanity does not have faith. Wala maru'ata liman la aqla lah. And that person who does not have intellect and is not using his intellect, not using his intellect to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in the best of fashions, whatever that fashion may be, in color, in language, in the best of fashions. So that person who does not have that intellect, that reasoning, la maru'ata lah. And that person has no quality of humanity. And without that quality of humanity, the person is not truly following the faith. So as Imam Sadiq, going back to the hadith, he says, Aslu rajul, his intellect and his measure is based on his deen and his nobility and his taqwa and his God consciousness. Then Imam Sadiq, he says, Wanas, and people, mankind, humanity, fi adama mustawun, that we are equal before Adam, that we are all Bani Adam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, Ya Bani Adam, O children of Adam, that we are all Bani Adam. No matter what our tribe is, no matter what our nation is, our Kabila nation is, no matter what our language is, no matter what our color is, we're all Bani Adam. We're all equal in Mustawun fi Adam. He said that this individual, when he heard this from Imam Sadiq, he began to feel shameful that even he brought up this idea, this concept, that this individual's novelty, that why we're asking. Just one point before I go into this, the advice of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Going back to that Rajul, who's min Ahl al-Sawad, who's from this area, perhaps in Basra, and those individuals who are perhaps from Iraq or from Basra, they perhaps know that, yes, those individuals who are in Basra, or quite a few individuals who are in Basra, that they are dark-skinned. They are what perhaps one would say is black. Or maybe sometimes even you will look at them and maybe mistake them for African American. That's actually what happened to me when I made ziyarah. When I was at the border, the Iraqi police, or Iraqi guards, border guards, they kept thinking that I was from Basra. And when I was speaking with them, speaking in Arabic, they was like, "You're from Basra." I'm like, "No, I'm not from Basra." At that time, I had not met someone from Basra, but then when I entered, I made ziyarah and I met someone from Basra, and I realized that, this is why I was asked, am I from Basra? So that nation, the Sha'b Iraqi, there are some individuals who, again, their color is different. So it is a nation with different colors, a nation, even at times, with different languages, different dialects. And upon further research as well, and this is very interesting, I understood from some of the research that some of the you could say Afro-Iraqis, if you want to use that term, that they were from Zinj. They were from that area, Zinj, so moved from Africa, that not from the Habash, not from the Nuba, from that area from Zinj, which even today, presently in Kenya and Tanzania and moving forward, so forth, Malawi, that again, they're majority Muslim. So that term Zinj does not apply to them in that sense that is mentioned in the hadith. where it was speaking about a particular tribe or nation with a particular, perhaps a particular religious outlook of the world. So we must understand this. And again, going back to that foundation, the Quran, appreciate the differences we have and understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and his might through that, through those differences. So finally, how do we cultivate muru'ah within ourselves based on the advice of Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam? So Imam Sadiq, he tells us, he says, muru'ah, al-muru'ah, having that quality of humanity and cultivating that quality of humanity can be done in two ways. This is al-muru'atu muru'atan. Muru'atun fil hadari wa muru'atun fil safar. So we can practice and cultivate our quality of humanity when we're in our towns and our cities and when we are traveling. This is regarding the muru'ah, cultivating it while we're in our cities, in the place that we reside, he says, فَتِلَاوَةُ الْقُرْآنِ, to read the Quran, to understand the criterion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed for us in the Quran with regards to humanity, in other words. وَلُزُومُ الْمَسَاجِدِ, and to be close to our masajid, in other words, to pray, to humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to humble ourselves so that we may understand the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And among those signs is our different colors. Among those signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our differences in languages and dialects. The third thing is mashu ma'al ikhwan, to walk with your brothers in humanity, your brothers in creation, whether they look like you or they don't look like you, whether their language is your language or whether they have a different language or have a different dialect. The next thing is ni'matun tura al khadim. And if someone is in your service, someone you have employed, someone who is working for you, then Imam, he says that the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you should be seen on that individual. And this is why sometimes we see that in the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt, they say that some of the khadims of Ahlul Bayt, they made sure that they were dressing better than themselves. And in fact, some individuals, when they saw the khadims, they thought they were noble people. And of course they were, by the blessings of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhi. As far as cultivating muru'ah, the quality of humanity when we are traveling, so the Imam, he says, فَكَثْرَةُ الزَّادِ, to make sure that we bring enough provision with us on that trip and on that journey, and to bring that provision enough and extra so that you can share it with others, so that they can sit and benefit from the provisions that you have brought. In other words, you're serving your fellow traveler, you're helping them, you're aiding them. And when you do, he says, وَكِتْمَانُكَ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ أَمْرَهُمْ. So, but you don't let it be known. You don't aid them, you don't help them in a way that you are showing pride that, oh, I'm able to help them. No, you keep it to yourself. وَكَثْرَةُ الْمِزَاحِ فِي غَيْرِ مَا يُسْخِطُ اللَّهِ. And also on that journey when you're traveling with people, to keep good conversation with them. And in fact, even the word is joking, to joke with them, to make that trip and that journey easy. But that joke and that having fun with them should be in a way that it is not displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how we can cultivate our muru'ah, our quality of humanity. So someone who has such profound teachings for us. And as the Imam, he also states that know that Allah la yarzuqu al-abda ala qadri muru'ah. So based on the extent of your humanity, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gives you rizq. And that rizq can be monetary, but that rizq can also be ma'anawi, can also be spiritual. But it's based on the level of our humanity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us. So these are the teachings of Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam. And understanding if we understand those teachings, then we will understand the great loss of the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam when he became shaheed. Imagine that someone with the humanity, the level of humanity that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had, that he would go in the night, and even individuals who did not accept his wilayah, some individuals who also rejected the Ahlul Bayt, but the Imam, he would take care of them because they were poor, they were needy. And they did not understand this until after the Shahadat of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The Imam who educated the Ummah. This Imam Sadiq, that if he did not establish the center of education that he did, then you wouldn't have Shafi, you wouldn't have Hanbali, Malik. This is the Imam that we lost in this month of Shawwal. Treated in the most inhumane way, although he treated everyone with dignity and respect and in the most humane way. But he did not receive that same treatment. At times, Mansur al-Dawanaki, he would call him to Imam Sadiq to his castle, to the governor's mansion, and would want to kill him. In one case, he says, as he raised a sword to strike Imam Sadiq, he became fearful and began to shake. When someone asked him that, Mansur, that what's happened to you? Why are you shaking? He says, it is as if I see the Prophet of Allah before Ja'far ibn Muhammad. In another case, Mansur al-Dawanaki, coming from the Hajj, vowing, I will kill the Imam when I come back. What type of reciprocation of humanity is this for an Imam, of a man of such stature? At one moment, the Gara of Imam Sadiq, the house of Imam Sadiq, Aglagadi, that he set the house of Imam Sadiq on fire. And when Imam Sadiq, he saw this, he said he reminded him of Karbala, reminded him of his aunt, Zainab. To see his women running from room to room, running around. He says, but there was only one difference, that I'm here to help my women and children. But the Imam Hussein was not there to help the women and children in Karbala. Abbas was not there to help the women and children. Imam Zain al-Abidin, that he was ill, he was not able to help them. So he thought in that moment, though it was sad, that there's a bit of fortune. But eventually Imam Sadiq was poisoned by Mansur al-Dawanaki. And when the Imam, he was ill, upon his deathbed, he gave his final wasiyah, and according to some of the maqtals, he said these were the final words out of the mouth of Imam Sadiq. He says, that person that does istighfaf, man istaghaffa bis salat, this person will not receive our shafa'ah. He said, and then the Imam, he passed. One of the Shia of Ali Muhammad, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, by the name of Abu Huraira al-Ajli, he was one of the poets. He describes that moment in which the Imam, he was being carried towards his grave, that after the Imam, he had been given kafan, he had been given a ghusl and kafan, they were going to take the Imam for dafan. Abu Huraira al-Ajli, he states, أقول وقد راحوا به يحملونه على كاهل من حامليه وعاتقي. He says, I am saying this, I am reading these words of poetry, but as they are taking and they're carrying the body of Imam Sadiq, they're carrying him, the pallbearers have the Imam upon his shoulders, upon the platform upon his shoulders. What does the poet, he say? Looking at the scene as Imam Sadiq is going to be buried. He says, أتدرون ماذا تحملون إلى الثرى ثبيرا ثوى من رأس عليا شاهقي. He says, do you know who you are carrying towards the grave? Do you know that what you're taking towards the earth, to bury in this earth? He says, this is a man of stature. Literally, he says that this is a mountain, a great and grand mountain, meaning that Imam Sadiq, he is a man of stature. Almost he's painting this picture that how would you put a mountain in a grave, in a hole? This is a mountain. Imam Sadiq is a man of great stature. So he is in awe about the scene that he's seeing, that Imam Sadiq is being taken towards the grave. He says, غَدَاتَ حَثَّ الْحَاثُونَ فَوْقَ ضَرِيحِهِ تُرَابًا وَأَوْلَى كَانَ فَوْقَ الْمَفَارِقِ. He says that tomorrow that you'll see that people will come, they will make a lot of commotion around the grave of Imam Sadiq. They will come perhaps to make ziyarah, perhaps to come and to mourn Imam Sadiq. This is, but at the time that's the Imam, he was pardoning us, that why was there not commotion? Why didn't people stand up? Why didn't people do anything at that moment? But if this Sha'ir of Ahlul Bayt, Abu Hurair al-Ajli, that if he saw the state of the grave of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam today, that if he saw the disrespect that the Imam he was given, even now, even in his death, that Jannat al-Baqi has been destroyed, what would he say? One of the present day poets, he said this such beautiful words, again describing the scene, as describing his pain and the pain of the Shia at what has happened to Baqi. He says, قوموا شوفوا البقي شلون حال القبور. He says, stand, go see the state of Baqi, that what has happened. Look at the state of the graves in Baqi, that once there were shrines, there were great shrines there for the Ahlul Bayt, but everything has been destroyed. قوموا شوفوا البقي شلون حال القبور شلون ترضوها يا شيعة محدمة مهجورة. That's oh Shia, that look at the graves of Ahlul Bayt, that now you cannot even go make ziyarah there. That how are you content with this state, that the graves have been destroyed and they have been left alone, that no one can do and they make the ziyarah of the Ahlul Bayt in Baqi. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم بحق هذا المجلس الصادق اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. الفاتحة. بسم الله.
So thank you, Sheikh Jafar. For those of you that are still watching, inshallah, we will be back live on YouTube with Dua Kamel in 20 minutes. But for now, inshallah, we will be ending the stream. But we will be live back again, inshallah, with Dua Kamel in 20 minutes at 7:30, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.